In 1931, the International Bible Students adopted the name of Jehovah's Witnesses. This was most significant in view of the fact that it is the Creator's clearly stated purpose to have His name declared throughout all the earth, so that all the nations of the world will eventually come to know that Jehovah is the true God. While Christendom has endeavored to remove the distinctive name of God from their Bibles, and ultimately from the minds of men, the ministry of Jehovah's Witnesses has made the personal name of God known throughout the earth. Not coincidentally, right as Jehovah's Witnesses officially came on the scene in 1931, Nazism had taken over Germany, and Jehovah's Witnesses there immediately began to feel the heat of persecution because of their refusal to raise their arm to Heil Hitler. There were about 10,000 of Jehovah's Witnesses in Germany at the time. Before the Holocaust was through, over 2,000 had been rounded up and herded into concentration camps, where they were made to wear the purple triangle that identified them as Jehovah's Witnesses. A few hundred were executed or died in the camps. The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., while primarily intended to preserve the record of the horrific Jewish Holocaust, also has an exhibit presenting the story of the suffering of Jehovah's Witnesses during the Nazi reign of terror. But unlike the unfortunate Jewish people, who were persecuted merely for their ethnicity, Jehovah's Witnesses could avoid persecution and even be released from the death camps simply by signing a document renouncing their faith. Most refused to do so. Here is an excerpt of a song archived at the Holocaust Museum online that was written by a German witness, Erich Frost, in 1931. Although Jehovah's Witnesses will recognize the melody, which has been rewritten as a kingdom song, which is sung in the congregations to this day, the original lyrics express the determination of Jehovah's Witnesses to remain steadfast in the face of the ruthless Nazi juggernaut. Although Rutherford has been accused of trying to placate Hitler, there is no denying the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses in Germany demonstrated before the world that they had the same stalwart faith as the first-century Christians, who chose to be martyred in the Colosseum rather than recant their faith. The Nazis were not alone in the persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses. In the United States, Catholic action groups and crazed mobs were incited by the clergy against Jehovah's Witnesses. Children were expelled from schools for not saluting the flag, and hundreds of men were sent to prisons in America and numerous other nations in the English-speaking realm for their refusal to take up arms. Perhaps to the delight of his religious enemies, the combative J.F. Rutherford was silenced in death in 1942. But as the Second World War was drawing to a close, Nathan Noor, who became the third president of the Watchtower Bible Society, initiated a far-reaching missionary training program called Gilead. Over the past 60 years, thousands of missionaries have been trained and sent out to the very ends of the earth, preaching the kingdom message, just as Jesus commanded. Gradually, the radio, phonograph, and sound cars were phased out, and emphasis was placed upon training individual Christians as public speakers, teachers, and doorstep preachers, just like the original Christians were. About 1950, the Watchtower began to refer to the organization as the New World Society. That's because it is the firm conviction of Jehovah's Witnesses that Jehovah God is preparing a great crowd of people to survive the end of this world to become the nucleus of an entirely new civilization on earth, hence a New World Society. Also about that same time, work was begun on an entirely new Bible translation called the New World Translation, in which the personal name of God was restored to its rightful place in the Holy Scriptures. Armed with the New World Translation and polished by Bethel's ongoing ministerial training program, by the late 1960s, the New World Society was poised for a period of rapid expansion that would continue for several decades. As a result, lands in the Americas that were formerly considered bastions of Catholicism began to see hundreds of thousands become active ministers of the New World Society. Even peoples in the Far East, under the domination of Shinto and Buddhism, began to respond to the message of Jehovah's Witnesses of a coming new world. And as the Iron Curtain came down, and multitudes in those repressed nations responded to the opportunity presented to them to call upon the name of Jehovah. As it stands presently, there are over 6.5 million of Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide, and the Watchtower Society's Bible-based message is published, astoundingly, in over 300 languages. To meet the spiritual needs of the growing New World Society, beginning in the 1980s, Bethel undertook a massive construction campaign, building dozens of branch offices and printing factories, huge assembly halls, and thousands of kingdom halls around the world, as well as the Patterson Educational Complex in New York State. Although not a commercial enterprise, given the sheer number of projects under construction then, at one point the Watchtower was reputed to be the largest construction company in the world. Perhaps one of the most dramatic demonstrations of the spirit embodied in the New World Society is displayed by the Watchtower's amazing Kingdom Hall Quick Build program. The so-named Quick Build brings together hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses of all ages, some skilled craftsmen and builders, but most just unskilled volunteers. And in 2 to 4 days, an entire Kingdom Hall is constructed and furnished.